Kobe 24, Magic 32, Steph Curry number 30. Let me know, 641-1010. But let me start with this. ESPN on their NBA program that they have there each and every day, I believe it's around 3 o'clock. Kendrick Perkins came out with his list discussing who he feels has the most pressure or players that have the most to prove coming into this NBA season. And I didn't agree with every guy that he named. He named 5. The list kind of went like this: Julius Randle, Karl Anthony Towns, Ja Morant, Damian Lillard, and Joel Embiid capped it off at number 1. I only agree with 1. So I'll give you my 3 guys who I believe have pressure on them to really succeed this season or have something to prove, have that chip on their shoulder. And I'll begin with the guy I said I agree with on Perkins' list. It's going to be Joel Embiid. Now, there's been a lot of asterisks with Joel Embiid in terms of his career, right? Since this whole tagline of the process. He's the promised son in Philadelphia. He's going to be the guy that's going to deliver the long-awaited championship that Philly's been lacking, honestly, since they last went to the NBA Finals in 2001 with Allen Iverson. Then I believe you have to go to the 80s when they won with Dr. J. But a lot of things have happened since that time when he came in as the guy who's supposed to be the savior of the city of brotherly love. He's injured for a while. You got all these draft picks. You thought Markelle Fultz was going to be a guy that was going to be able to be a part of that rebuilding process. He ends up going away, played great in Orlando. Hopefully he gets another job here soon, maybe by the second half of the year. Ben Simmons, all of a sudden he has a brain fart. He can't find his game again, and he's trying to figure it out now in Brooklyn, and we don't know as to whether or not we'll ever see Ben Simmons after this season. I mean, more than likely we will, but it really feels he's fallen from grace, right? Ever since he was supposed to be the guy that's, LeBron James if he can figure out a jump shot. Brett Brown's supposed to be the coach. You let him go. Doc Rivers you have for quite some time. You bring in James Harden, the Daryl Morey guy, right? That ends up not working out. James Harden comes out with that video in China, says Daryl Morey's a liar. I'll never play for him again. He's now in L.A. Doc Rivers now in Milwaukee. Now you bring in Nick Nurse. You've also brought in Paul George, who was the darling of free agency this year when many thought maybe he'd go to Orlando. Some thought that maybe he'd go somewhere like maybe a Dallas. There was a trade in the works that I guess the Clippers shut down where he was supposed to go to Golden State. He's in Philly now. Tyrese Maxey, that developmental piece. He's the strong second guy. It feels to me now this has to be the opportunity in which Joel Embiid, who unquestionably to me, when healthy, can be the most dominant force in the league. But he's injured quite a bit, right? Paul George, injured quite a bit, right? Both of these guys aren't going to play till at least next week. I believe Joel Embiid's also going to miss the Detroit game. I mean, talk about a tune-up. If you want to tune him up to see if he can play or how good he feels, why not have him go out against Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons? That would have been a great tune-up game. I don't think he's going to play that game either. So the question is now, can Embiid stay healthy? Can this be the team that can defeat or go head-to-head with the Boston Celtics? It is early. Only 3 games in. But I guess Philly's trying to stay cautious because I believe they say he doesn't need to be healthy October, November, December. We need him February, March, April, May, and then hopefully we're in the NBA Finals in June. However, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce talked about that. And because of the extension he signed, and he's saying that he's probably not going to play in back-to-backs the rest of his career, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce said, that's not in this job description.
82 games, man. This is what the fucking job calls for. You're not practicing. You're not even playing a whole. You don't play in the summer.
Right.
I can see if you playing in the summer, you on the playground, you went to the Olympics, then it's training camp. Y'all do 30 days of tour days. Okay, that's when you get rest. Man, I don't want to hear this shit, man. Motherfucker can sit out a back-to-backs. Hey, listen, we done with that comparison of the era. We're going to respect this era and what it does, and that's it.
I think that's going to hurt Philly.
That's going to hurt Philly from
a seeding perspective.
It's rhythm. One night I got P, next night I ain't got it.
You might have to they might put themselves in the position to where they play Boston in the first round.
There's the fear. Now, I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to get into the playoffs via the play-in. I don't think they're going to be a 9 seed or a 7 seed just barely hanging on. I don't think that. But I do believe that you do need a guy in Joel Embiid to be healthy and to play those games because of a rhythm. You can't really predict what's going to happen in terms of injuries. He has to go out there and play. My biggest question is now, is the process over if Joel Embiid cannot deliver this season? Now, Keith Pompey, and we won't get to the sound here because we want to have enough time to bring in Jake Chapman from the Orlando Magic, going to break down a guy who I believe has something to prove. Why, I don't know. But he believes that the process has already been over. It was over when you let go of Brett Brown, let go of Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz. The only guy that's left from the process is the process himself. So the only thing in my mind now is you have to win a championship. And the East is now getting very deep. I believe that Philly's in the same predicament as, let's say, the Milwaukee Bucks, a much older team. That window could be closing faster than they may want to give off. Joel Embiid, my number one guy in terms of who needs to have a chip on his shoulder, have something to prove. The second guy, he may say that he doesn't have anything else to prove. He may say that. Never had anything to prove to us, but it's Kevin Durant. Is it fair for me to say Kevin Durant? Here's why. It seems to me after he won the 2 championships in Golden State, it felt that he thought 2 things. One, you don't have to ask where's the championship anymore. I won it. But secondly, this should put me over LeBron James. And neither one has really worked out in his favor. Sure, he won a championship. It's going to be the looming thing as it is with LeBron James. Well, you had to go A, B, and C and do A, B, and C in order to get it. And that doesn't make you better than LeBron James. And you remember that parade? Do you remember that parade? Joe Lacob, Bob Myers, Steve Kerr. Oh, I mean, we were highly successful before KD came around. Didn't that feel like that was sending a message, taking a little bit of a shot at Kevin Durant? That won finals MVP in the back-to-back championships that Golden State won? Remember that game against the Clippers? Draymond Green, why in the hell are you trying to take the game-winning shot when you have Klay, Steph, and KD at your disposal? Makes a dumb decision. He and KD are arguing back and forth, and he says, we don't need you. We've won without you. Kevin Durant. There's video out on this. Kevin Durant. That's why I'm out of here. And he left, and he hasn't been successful since. Tried to make his own super-duper team in Brooklyn. Him, Kyrie, James Harden. Doesn't work. Harden decides to go away. Goes to Philly because he's eating honey buns in Brooklyn. Kyrie had the issues with the whole Amazon thing. Ship him to Dallas. Kevin Durant, trying his best to make it work himself, doesn't want to do it anymore. So where does he go? He doesn't go to a team that can build around him. Let's go to Phoenix. They went to the finals not too long ago. Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, they're a me away. They're Kevin Durant away from winning a championship. Hasn't worked out yet. Doesn't it feel he's almost on the same track as a Steph Curry, though? That he almost has to win one to kind of invalidate the reasoning people want to hate? I believe Steph Curry, if he didn't win the championship against Boston, I believe that many people would have said, yeah, you won one, but you lost another after going 73-9, and you had to get Kevin Durant to win another two, to beat LeBron James. What can you say now? Had no Kevin Durant. Golden State, honestly, was highly looked over in the West that year. Not making the NBA Finals, didn't they? Beat Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and albeit they weren't ready yet. That wasn't the Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum we see today. But he wins. What can you say now? In hostile territory. Kevin Durant has yet to do that since he's left Golden State. Which makes you wonder, did Golden State need him? Or did he need Golden State? Now, the third guy that I have, he doesn't need to prove anything to me. Let's start there. I don't think he needs to prove anything to you if you're a hoop head or an Orlando Magic basketball fan. And I'm not saying this guy's name because we do things with the Magic. I love watching hoop. I would like to believe that me and the people I talk hoop with know hoop and know a ball player when you see a ball player. But the national media has this guy ranked as the 24th best player in the NBA, and it's startling. But Paolo Banchero, I would have to believe if I'm making an excuse for the national media, they're trying to see whether or not this guy can do it again. And remember, revisionist history for all you Orlando Magic fans out there. Orlando could have messed this up bad. Remember, Jabari Smith was supposed to be the pick. So everybody was gunning in at number one. It's going to be Jabari Smith out of Auburn. Paolo was supposed to go 3 because OKC believed that much in Chet. It's going to take him number 2. 11th hour, Paolo Banchero. And he hasn't done much. I mean, he's won Rookie of the Year. First year. Second year, he's an NBA All-Star. The only other Orlando Magic player to do that in their first 2 seasons, Shaquille O'Neal, a Hall of Famer. And his first 7 games in the NBA playoffs, he averaged just a measly 27, 8, and 4 at age 21. The only other guys to do that, Luka Doncic, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. All 4 guys are going to be Hall of Famers, right? What does he do this year? Game 1? 33-11 against Miami, in Miami, during a night where they were honoring Pat Riley. Only other guy to do that in his debut game for a new NBA season to drop 30, Tracy McGrady, Hall of Famer. Shaq dropped 42, Hall of Famer. Paolo Banchero, let me read this stat to you. He's the only player to have a game with 30-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, and no turnovers, and a plus-minus of plus 40. And they didn't start tracking that stat until 96. And this guy's the 24th best player. He didn't have a great night last night against Brooklyn. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But he finished with a dang near triple-double even on a bad night. Can we argue this guy is on the precipice of becoming one of the toughest covers in the NBA? The natural strength. He's now been in the weight room. You see he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. He's taking advantage of every matchup that he has. He had a lot of matchup advantages against Brooklyn. They just weren't falling. He was missing bunnies. But we heard Jamal Mosley last season, right? He can score like Carmelo Anthony, pass like LeBron James. Again, another 2 Hall of Famers. So if he's doing things that we compare to Hall of Fame guys, or he's in the same conversation when he does these record-breaking things as Hall of Famers, why is he number 24? Why? You're telling me there's 23 players better than him? If this was any one of those other guys in which I just named, they would probably be top 15 going into year 3. Top 15, maybe top 10. Not Paolo. Nothing to prove to me, but maybe the national media wants to see whether or not he can do it again. And you know what? Let's figure that out with Jake Chapman. He's the radio play-by-play voice of your Orlando Magic. In fact, he'll be on tonight as we have Orlando Magic basketball here on the Superstation as they play against the Memphis Grizzlies, looking to go 3-0. He'll talk with us about Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and more on Open Gym on 1010XL.
Play-by-play sports just sounds better on radio. For high school, college, and pro sports play-by-play, turn on 1010XL.
Want to be up close and personal with the Jaguars as they take the field? Here's your chance to be in the shadows, outside the Jaguars locker room, now called The Vault. Enter today at everbank.com/shadows. One winner and a guest for every home game at Everbank Stadium. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to legal residents of the United States and D.C. 18 and older. Entry periods for the Shadow Sweepstakes promotion from 8/19/24 to 12/15/24. For official rules and complete details, visit everbank.com/shadows. Sponsored administrator, Everbank N.A. member FDIC.
Electricians, innovators, and tech enthusiasts, listen up. Miller Electric is shaping the future, and we want you to be a part of it. From healthcare and data centers, corporate offices, aviation, and industrial facilities, Miller Electric is powering the most exciting projects in Jacksonville and beyond. We offer not just a job, but a thrilling career with great pay and incredible benefits. Visit us at millercareers.com to apply. Miller Electric, where your skills meet our vision, and equal opportunity employer.
The Jaguars are back at Everbank Stadium to go head-to-head with the Green Bay Packers for our crucial catch game. Join us October 27th as we fight cancer through early detection, risk reduction, and awareness all game long. Lock in your tickets now by visiting jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. We'll see you there.
To catch passes for Spurrier.
Oh, my! What a great catch in the corner!
Now he throws opinions at Napier. Chris Doering, Tuesday mornings on The Drill. Brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Farah and Farah on 1010XL.
If you're looking for custom metalwork, look no further than Superior Fence and Rail. Whether it's custom railing, shade structures, or custom entry gates, their expert team controls the turnkey process. From CAD design and raw metal to powder-coated finish and expert installation. When you choose Superior Fence and Rail for your custom metal project, you get a project that's, well, superior. So get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail today.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line.
Hello.
We can wiggle it.
Play the open. It is a basketball show for the basketball fan. Welcome back to the Open Gym on 1010XL. This season, catch all of the action on the Superstation. It begins tonight as the Magic look to go 3-0 on the year. As they travel to Memphis to face Ja Morant and the Grizzlies, our coverage is going to begin at 7:30 on 1010 a.m. as well as the stream. And you'll hear the voice of the Orlando Magic on our air for those games is going to be none other than Jake Chapman. He's the radio play-by-play voice for your Magic, and you can follow him on Twitter at Jake Chapman OM. Jake, thanks again for joining us, man. How are you?
What's up, RJ? How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for being on with us. The first question I have to ask you is just, help me out here, because I don't know what I'm missing. If you tell me that a guy in his first playoff series averages 27, 8, and 4, turns around the very next season, and in his first game puts up 33 and 11. He's the first Magic player to drop 30 points in the opening game since Tracy McGrady, and the second most, only behind Shaquille O'Neal with 42. Why does ESPN have Paolo Banchero as the 24th ranked player in the NBA?
Oh, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. I think, look, we're still flying a little bit under the radar, I think, and I understand that. It's been a long time since the Magic have been, like, nationally relevant, right? You probably got to go back to the Dwight years. And I do think the national media, and Kevin Clark talks about this a lot, and this isn't just NBA, this is sort of with everything in the sports landscape.
Right.
The national media, it's like turning around an aircraft carrier, right? Like it's always going to be a little bit slower on the uptake on stories like Paolo and on the Magic, I think, in general. So I get it. I understand. And look, like you're right. I think it was very underplayed how well he played in that series. He scored 38 points on the road in Game 7 at 21 years old.
Right.
But we lost the game. And so I think the playoffs move on. The NBA world moves on. The summer flies by. You got free agency. You've got the draft, all this fun stuff. And then it's like, oh, yeah, he was really good in that series. And so I'm glad you brought it up. We've been talking about it, of course, during the preseason. And look, you know, he came out and he did stuff that you haven't seen since McGrady the other night against Miami, and that was such a satisfying win. And then last night, Jordi Fernandez is throwing doubles and triples at him, and he had 9 assists.
Yes.
And he hasn't turned the ball over yet, RJ, so far this season through 2 games. So I think the coming out party is happening, and those lists are fun. It's good fodder. I do think, you know, I went through it, and I've got a few qualms with some of the guys listed above him, but I think it just speaks to what a great state the NBA is in right now as far as young talent. There are a lot of players with proven track records in those top 23 spots ahead of Paolo. So his time is coming, and it will come, and you just got to be patient, I think, with the national talk.
Absolutely, and I understand it's a small sample size as of right now with the team being 2-0, but Jake, I got to tell you, I mean, I love the energy in which I'm seeing from the Orlando Magic coming out of the gate. But you've been there the first 2 games and will also be there tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. Did you kind of feel this coming, you know, during the media days, during the preseason, that this team had a different energy about them going into this season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a lot more business-like all of a sudden. You know, last year, and we just sort of track, I kind of go, what was the vibe like a year ago, right? And so last year was all about leveling up, and Coach Mosley's done a really good job kind of creating mantras and buzzwords. It's not like a college program necessarily, but just sort of like establishing what the mindset is going to be this year. And so last year, after 2 seasons ago, the back half of the year 2 years ago, kind of had a sense that at least we're moving in the right direction. Okay, everything was about leveling up last year. Okay, now we want to be in national TV games. We want to be on that bigger stage. Right. But in order to get there, we got to take care of business all season long. You saw that last year. They got out to a good start. They had a 9-game winning streak before New Year's. But even still, there were sort of those lapses over the course of a long NBA season that probably ended up costing you a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. You were a game out of where the Cavaliers finished. Right. And then, you know, ironically, or maybe not ironically, you lost all the 4 games that you played against the Cavs on their home floor. Right. So that's kind of been what sort of stuck in their memory, I think, over the course of the summer and then into this year is like, okay, we can start out hot again, but we can't have that swoon in January or in March where you drop 4 of 5 because that can cost you a playoff seed and then essentially a playoff series. So it's just been a much more like we know now how to get back to that stage, but that's not going to be good enough. We want to have a top 4 seed. They've been very explicit about it in the Eastern Conference. Usually you don't hear players talking like that specifically about team goals. And I think that's the whole idea is we need to treat every single game like it's a playoff game. And, you know, I think it's human nature to have those lapses over the course of a long season, but it's felt a little bit different this year. Obviously, everybody's excited, but I think to a man from Coach Mosley on down the roster, everybody is kind of growing up a little bit. That's fun to watch.
Absolutely. Jake Chapman, our guest, the radio play-by-play voice of the Orlando Magic. You can hear him on our air tonight beginning at 7:30 as the Magic look to go 3-0. They'll be facing Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. You got to talk to me about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I understand there were people on one side of the fence screaming for Paul George, people on the other side of the fence saying, well, if we don't get him, we can go get Klay Thompson, or maybe Klay Thompson would be a better choice in going out and getting and overpaying possibly for a Paul George. But you get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and I got to tell you, Jake, I mean, this kind of gives you a feeling of like Rashad Lewis when he came to the Magic, there when they went to an NBA championship. And this also kind of gives you a feeling of Horace Grant when Horace Grant came to the Orlando Magic. It's just what the doctor ordered. Tell me about the energy around KCP and what he's been able to bring to the table these first two games.
No, first off, I love the historical references. That's good stuff, RJ. I appreciate that. Everybody likes to think. Anytime I can get Horace Grant in my day before noon, I love it. And as far as the other guys go, like all those rumors, like the whole thing, I think, and I talked about this last year during the summer, like no matter who they brought in, and I think there was probably, I mean, Paul George, Klay Thompson are both great players, but like you needed somebody who's available, and this Kentavious Caldwell-Pope guy plays 70+ games every year, and you needed somebody who was going to accentuate, not take away from the development of not just Paolo and Franz, mainly Paolo and Franz, but everybody else. And so, gotta love Paul George, but Philly's in a different state right now. Like they need Paul George to come in and ease the burden off of Joel Embiid. Right. And if he stay on the floor, then he will. And that's another conversation for another time.
Right.
We needed somebody who could come in and I think help Paolo and Franz along. And just because the timelines are in different places. And so KCP is like perfect. I mean, he is. He's a veteran who has first off played with superstars, won rings with both LeBron and Nikola Jokic. He's a defensive ace. He is a floor spacer, which I don't need to tell you, shooting was a big priority during the offseason. And he's also not a big booming personality, which I'm not saying Paul George or Klay Thompson are, but I think KCP just fit perfectly the mold that Jeff Weltman and Anthony Parker in the front office was looking for. A veteran who can help guys get to the next level, going back to what I was saying, can help you through those stretches in January. They're going to be professional. They're going to sort of gut it out, go out there and play at their best level, even when their hammies are bugging them. And somebody who's been there before. And so I think X, Y, and Z, like he checked all of those boxes. And he's been great so far. And I was in Detroit when KCP was a super young player, and I remember just kind of thinking about how, he was the 8th pick or something like that. Right. He was the SEC Player of the Year, sophomore year at Georgia. All these guys, when they come out, think they're going to be superstars. And KCP had so much game, but he was also figuring out. This is Stan Van Gundy when he was in Detroit. He's also figuring out how to last in this league.
Right.
And so to think about where he was then, and because you could see it sort of developing, and to see how he just sort of said, you know what, I'm going to defend my ass off, and I'm going to shoot threes.
Yes.
And I'm going to help the best player be the best version of himself. That's how you stick around the league as long as KCP has, and that's how you end up getting contract after contract like KCP has. So he's been perfect, and boy, he shut down Jimmy Butler in the first game and went 0 for 5 from 3, but you win the game convincingly. So right off rip, we don't need him to impact the scoring, box. Right. He's going to do other things to help. And then last night he was knocking down shots and doing the same thing. Cam Thomas only got off last night when KCP wasn't on him.
Right.
The dude's been phenomenal through 2 games.
Absolutely. And you talk about KCP, it also feels like another guy that's going to be giving opponents hell on the defensive end is that of Jalen Suggs. And I understand that's a backcourt defensively. I don't know how many teams want to go up against that night after night after night, but he gets the big contract extension. So you're able to keep the young core, but I argue sometimes that this guy is one of the heartbeats, if not the heartbeat of the Orlando Magic when it comes to their energy. Just what was your thoughts on the extension and how Jalen Suggs has played these first 2 games?
Yeah, and, going back to the KCP thing real quick, because obviously he and Jalen next to each other is like a dynamic backcourt. They're just going to crawl into the ball and sort of that first line of defense. It's the vision is you can start to see it unfurling right now. The other thing that bringing Pope in does is it slides Gary Harris to the bench. And so you want to talk about those two guys. Well, how about Anthony Black and Gary Harris harassing bench backcourts, right?
Right.
So you have that ripple effect across the roster, and bringing Gary back was, a very underrated kind of quiet move, and that's been awesome to watch through 2 games. But you're right. Like I can tell you listen to Dante and I, because Dante says Jalen Suggs is the heart of the team, the heart and soul, and I think he is, and you can definitely see that at Kia Center. Like, he reacts and feeds off the crowd more so than anybody else, sometimes to his detriment. Like, I was just looking, he's playing 17 minutes a night right now. I don't think that's exactly what they're looking for.
No.
He got in foul trouble during that Miami game.
Yes, he did.
So hyped up, picked up 3 personal fouls in his first 5 minutes, and sat the rest of the first half. And then he comes out after that long halftime. They dedicated the court to Pat Riley at the Kaseya Center on Wednesday night. And Terry Rozier can't even get the ball past half court because Suggs is just suffocating him.
Right.
So he's very emotional. Sometimes he's got to scale it back, but it's all good emotion. It's all the type of emotion you want. He cares very deeply about defending well, about turning the Orlando Magic franchise and the city into a winner and getting it back to where it's been in the past, but hasn't been for a while. And so seeing him sign that extension was, it wasn't just him. There was a happy team, a happy locker room, a happy coaching staff, a happy organization, a happy city. Look, Jalen Suggs, we all know, was, a big prospect, a big recruit at Gonzaga, and then he had that shot against UCLA. And, kind of like KCP, like I was talking about, I think Jalen came into the league thinking he was going to be a superstar just because basically everybody does. That's the mentality you want. Right. You got to kind of find your niche in the first few years. And, I don't think Jalen's ever going to be a 20-point per game, 25-point per game scorer. But if he can be one of the best 3-and-D guards in the league, and we've got Paolo and Franz, then we're going to be really good.
Absolutely. Final couple of moments with the radio play-by-play voice of your Orlando Magic, Jake Chapman. Follow him on Twitter at Jake Chapman OM. When I have to describe Jake Chapman, I'm always jealous of him. Last season, you got to do a couple of broadcasts with Terrence Ross. He's now back in the fold. You did a great broadcast with him last night, but now also hearing that Michael Carter-Williams is also going to join you for a few games with the Orlando Magic. Just for you, how does it feel to be able to do broadcasts like this with 2 members of the Orlando Magic family who are beloved by the franchise as well as the city?
It's awesome, RJ. I appreciate you saying that, man. It's really cool. They're going to do the home games with me this year. So we had Terrence, like I said, for a few games in the postseason last year. By the way, I also love working with Jeff Turner. You want to talk about a pro?
Absolutely.
Anytime I get to do games with him, it's an absolute blast. No, we're fortunate. Look, and this goes back to the DeVos family, and from when I was an intern in 06, 07, I was the producer for 5 years back then, and then I left for a while, and then I came back because the Magic organization is unique in that sense. There are people who have worked there for as long as I can remember, going back to the 90s. It is a family-type vibe, and everybody who ever put on a Magic uniform is treated almost the same way. Dante Marchitelli, my boss, you guys see him on TV, is also now he and George Galanti in our PR department, communications department. They head up what is now called the Alumni Relations Department.
Okay.
And between them and Shelley Wilkes, who's our chief marketing officer, they keep all those guys so close. So last year, the 35th anniversary, we really did a whole bunch of outreach to the alumni. And we had a bunch of guys through, and they joined me on the radio, the T-Max, retired Shaq's jersey, all of that. They've done such a great job, the Magic organization, of always keeping those people close. And obviously it's Orlando, so a lot of people retire down here and have houses down here. They're in town a lot, so that helps. But, Terrence and MCW, as you said, Michael Carter-Williams is one of my favorite players to cover. Yeah. I love any player who thinks the game, and you can see him think the game the way MCW does. So I'm really excited to get him alongside. And then Terrence Ross, for crying out loud. He's dunk champion, scored 50 in a game. So being able to get kind of 2 unique perspectives from those guys, and, hey, this dude's red hot. Terrence, what does that feel like, right?
Right.
He's one of the only people in the world who knows what it feels like to be on a heater like Paolo Banchero gets on. So It's a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys carrying the games as well.
Absolutely. He is our Orlando Magic insider as well as the radio play-by-play voice of the Orlando Magic. You can hear him beginning tonight on our airwaves at 7:30 as the Magic look to go 3-0 on the young season against the Memphis Grizzlies. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, Jake Chapman OM. Jake, thanks again, and hopefully we will be doing this down the line this season, and have a great call against the Memphis Grizzlies.
Anytime, buddy. Thanks. Go Magic.
There he goes, Jake Chapman, Magic Radio play-by-play. They go 3-0. I just believe the Orlando Magic are a force to be reckoned with out east. I think it's time for the national media and those who aren't in the Florida area just to understand that. And maybe it's going to be sooner than later. When we come back, yeah, my Los Angeles Lakers may be 2-0, but there was something big that happened, I guess, game 1 of the regular season. And I just want to get an idea of how everyone felt about it if you watched the game or if you saw it on Twitter or if you saw it on a social media space in which you're frequently on. Let's talk about the whole Bronny James, LeBron James first game father-son duo thing right here on Open Gym on 1010XL.
1010XL celebrates high scorers.
1010XL and Southeast Orthopedic Specialists celebrate scholar athletes.
In class and on the court.
Brought to you by the Plumbers and Pipefitters Local Union 234. Wednesdays on The Frangie Show.
It's your boy E to the T, and I know you feeling good this week because we've been killing it on my bookie. Turning spreads, over-unders, and prop bets into straight cash, homie. Huge local games this Saturday night as the Florida State Seminoles are 21-point underdogs playing them Canes in Miami. And all day Sunday, you can get in on the action. The Packers travel to Duval, where there are 4.5-point favorites. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-point home underdogs to the Buffalo Bills with a 47-point over-under total. That's a high total with key players potentially injured. And the under has been crushing it this year, so take advantage. Then, the most bet-on game of the day every week is Sunday Night Football. And the Cowboys are taking on the 49ers with an over-under of 46.5. Take a hard look at that. My bookie still has the double deposit bonus too, by the way. That doubles your money on your very first deposit up to $1,000. It's the best deposit sign-up bonus in the industry. So sign up now and use promo code 1010XL and make yourself a winner with my bookie. Come on, somebody.
Have you tried golfing at the improved Cimarron Golf Club? If you haven't, tell you what, you're missing out on the best deal in Jacksonville. Now, many of you have received a postcard in the mail, and of course, if you bring that with you, $45 plus tax to play. That includes a cart, lunch, and a beer at the brand new Stone Barrel Tap House. Now, go to the website, that is CimarronGolfClub.com, and sign up for the Wild One Loyalty Program. That's the Wild One Loyalty Program, and get all of these specials emailed to you from Cimarron.
At Honda, we appreciate all the comparisons to other vehicles. And no matter how many times they compare their vehicles to a Honda, only a Honda is a Honda. Remember, value, quality, safety, there is no substitute. Visit your local Honda dealer now and experience the difference.
Living life on the edge of your seat.
Are you kidding me?
Your front row seat for play-by-play.
Break it free, they're not going to catch him.
1010XL.
David Lane here again for Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. After several surgeries for age-old issues, mainly my back and shoulders, there's no doubt that Southeast Orthopedic Specialists is my sustaining resource for living pain-free. Take it from me, and I'm being really honest here, there's no better orthopedic facility here in Jacksonville.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. It's all hoops. Open Gym on 1010XL.
Thanks again to Jake Chapman for joining us. It's pretty interesting that we are going to have Orlando Magic basketball games at this time of the year. Normally we don't do this till February. Those of you guys who have been following along with the show, we didn't start the show until, I believe, a couple days before All-Star break. So for us to be started now, and also for us to start having Orlando Magic basketball games on now, pretty big things going on in the world of 1010XL when it comes to the NBA. And I believe we're going to have over 20 games this season. Now, we have to honor the Jacksonville Jaguars, Florida Gators, who we are the home of, but Orlando Magic. Make sure to catch them when they are on our airwaves. But before we get out of here, talked about it before going to break. Bronny James and LeBron James shared the floor together in the Lakers opening day game against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Los Angeles. Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. in attendance. They had to get a photo op there. I understand the history of it all. I'm just glad it's over. That's my thing. Or at least I feel that it will be over. Because there's a report that came out that says, to the very least, Bronny James, is going to travel with the team on their 5-game road trip, which includes a game that will be played in Cleveland, and I believe that they'll probably share the floor in Cleveland. That'll be something that they'll want to do. Then he's going to start going back and forth between the Lakers main roster and the G League affiliate, the South Bay Lakers. Here was LeBron James after the game talking about how it felt being on the same floor with his son in an NBA game.
We still had a job to do when we checked in. We wasn't trying to make it a circus. We wasn't trying to make it about us. We wanted to make it about the team. And, for us to go out there and continue to play the game, the brand of basketball that the coaching staff and our teammates wanted us to play, we kept that. We kept the main thing while we was on the floor, and that was good for all of us.
Kept the main thing. I don't know what the main thing was besides getting that photo op. At least for LeBron James. For the Lakers, it probably was winning. I mean, you have J.J. Redick, who has enough pressure on him already because a lot of people want to call him the next Pat Riley. I understand, former player just stepped out. You kind of see the momentum shifting where players who just stepped out of a jersey are now stepping into sweatsuits because they no longer wear 3-piece suits anymore. Stepping into sweatsuits and coaching on an NBA sideline. But Bronny during that time played, I believe, 2 minutes and was a -7. Really not having a lot of impact on the game. But I do believe J.J. Redick did the right thing, getting him in, getting him out. We did it. Now let's get back to playing basketball. But I am on the side of Jaylen Brown here when he was at that Summer League game, and I don't think Bronny's a pro. And I'm not going to go as far as Doug Gottlieb went, trying to say that the guy was a Make-A-Wish kid. I think if you were to put Bronny behind closed doors, he would probably tell you he wasn't ready yet. Not to come to the NBA. And if he did, well, who is in his corner telling him, I don't think you're ready? Besides LeBron James, his father, who's arguably top 10 all time. You'll never make me say top 10. But it also said in the article that the plans could change for J.J. Redick in terms of whether or not he wants to have Bronny James go back and forth. Those plans should not change. This guy's a 6'1" guard who doesn't have a godlike skill set in one particular area, right? He's not Mookie Blaylock. He's not Damon Stoudemire. He's neither one of the Isaiah Thomas brothers. He's not Darius Garland. He's not Trae Young. What did those guys have in common? Damon Stoudemire was a Rookie of the Year. Solid point guard. Had a long career in the NBA. Mookie Blaylock, an all-defensive point guard. Trae Young, Isaiah Thomas. They get shots up in a hurry. The only thing that they share with Bronny James is his height. They were all 6'1". Isaiah Thomas from the Boston Celtics being, 5'9", 5'10". This guy has to develop, and he's not going to develop by not playing. J.J. Redick said this guy is going to be the case study for him. It's going to be the case study to see how we develop players, how we develop talent. Well, for those who are guys who know better than me and better than you because they're professionals, a lot of these guys are saying, listen, you're not going city to city to city to city to city practicing for 2-3 hours. Go through a couple walkthroughs, and then you're out there playing. Which Bronny James, in a 9-man rotation that J.J. Redick wants, I don't believe that he's going to play. Unless you're now going to say that it's for a Nike ad, photo op, first father-son duo. But as I said, I feel like that magic is gone. I think this is necessary for Bronny because here's my fear. If Shams is right in saying LeBron James has 2 years, 3 maybe, what happens when LeBron calls it quits? What happens to Bronny James? By that time, has he grown into a serviceable guard that can play on the Lakers' main roster? Don't know the answer to that yet. We're only in year 1. Can he guard guys that are 6'4" and up? Can he knock down threes at a high clip? And I get it. He had the heart condition. I'm just happy that he is alive. But I think if you put him behind closed doors, he may tell you he wasn't really ready and maybe that he should have stayed in college. But he talked with his dad and said, we could make history. I just can't pass this up. I can't pass this opportunity up. And listen, man, fathers are blinded by love. And I think LeBron's a guy who, as much as he loves his son, also loves the spotlight. But I don't think you needed to take a picture with the Griffeys. You catch him speaking with his son before they both check in, right? Lakers got bigger fish to fry here. Keith wants to join us, wants to talk about Bron and Bronny. Keith, welcome in.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Again, thank you for having this terrific show every Saturday. I get to listen when I'm in the car. I'll be quick. I know you're against the break here. Look, the G League, this is not filled with choir boys. And I really think this could be the last stop for young Bronny. You got guys, that are just dogs, as they say. Right. And I'm not quite sure he's built like that, fellas. So I'll take it off the air and listen. Thank you.
I can't say I disagree with Keith because that's something I'm not bringing up either. Do you understand how many people are trying to get into the NBA from the G League? Guys who are on 2-way contracts. Let's just say a guy like Tony Snell, who's been in the NBA for almost a decade, may not get another chance, but he's going to give it one more go. You think the son of LeBron James is going to get in his way? And the 5508, yes. No, I don't mean arguably top 10, like, you can say he's out of the top 10. I'm just saying he's a top 10 player of all time. LeBron James is. All right, I'm sorry if I misconstrued my words there. I'm just saying you're not going to have me say he's top 2, arguably, if I'm using that in the right context. But is a guy such as Bronny James going to be ready for that as well? J.J. Redick said this is going to be the case study for him. This is the case study. After we take out all the hype and all that air comes out the room. What is he? It's going to be an interesting thing to see, and we'll have a long time to see it. But keeping him on the main roster to, I guess, travel with his dad? Not something in which I think is the smartest thing to do. I mean, you heard guys like, and maybe it's an unfair thing, you heard guys like LeVar Ball, and we won't play the sound here, but you heard guys like LeVar Ball say it may be unfair to Bronny because they're looking at him to be LeBron. I don't think anybody is at this point. Doesn't have LeBron's height, doesn't have LeBron's skill. He has a feel for the game. I'll give him that. He has a feel, but I think he's trying a little bit too much, too hard. G League's going to be good for him. Those are my thoughts. Love to hear your 641-1010. That is episode number 1 of season 2 of Open Gym here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. We're going to be here with you throughout the regular season, talking Magic, looking around the association at other NBA teams. It seems like the Boston Celtics, seems like it's their world and we're just living in it. And I hate saying that as a Lakers fan. I hate it. But goodness, if what they did against New York is any indication as to what they're going to do, we're all in trouble. For Anthony, welcome in. I'm RJ Saunders. This has been Open Gym. We'll see you next week.
My temperament bipolar, I choose violence. Okay, let's get it up. It's time for him to prove that he's a problem. Clicking up, but cannot be legit. No 40 water. Tell him. Yeah.